In this video, I'm going to be analyzing all the characters from the first season of Battle for Dream Island and analyzing their psyche and seeing if they were good or bad people. I'm going to mainly be judging them off their actions and how they treated other people and how they played throughout the game and see if they did any backstabbing or just killing and all that sort of stuff. And here's the comment shout out of the day. If you want to be the next comment shout out, just comment a number 1 through 1000, and if you guess the number I'm thinking of first, you will win this. Also, all this content I make is for free, so the least you could do is subscribe and hit the like button. It really would mean a lot to me, and it does really help me with the algorithm and getting my videos pushed more. The first character we're going to be talking about is Flower, and it doesn't really take a genius to find that Flower wasn't a very good person in the original season of BFDI, you know, being super rude, killing a lot of people, and if you watch any BFDI, you would know this, and especially in the last episode of BFDI when she destroyed all the recovery centers and then ended up killing Bubble. Obviously, Flower is not a good person, and not much need to be said here. Next up, I have Spongy. I don't really recall Spongy doing anything super nice for anyone, but also Spongy never did anything mean to anyone. Spongy was a pretty neutral character throughout the whole season of BFDI. The only time Spongy did anything bad was when they killed Leafy in the spaceship challenge, but that was for the challenge, so I don't really put that against Spongy. And Spongy, for the most part, was pretty nice and pretty neutral. Next up, I have Blocky. Blocky, again, if you watch BFDI, you would know Blocky was not a very good person. Blocky did pull a lot of pranks, which led to a lot of deaths, and was a loyal friend to Pen and Eraser and Snowball, but other than that, Blocky was not a very good person and killed a lot of people like Ice Cube and Bubble. Although he did do it for other people's entertainment and not just out of pure evilness like Flower, but again, Blocky, bad person. Next up, I have Woody. I mean, Woody, same with Spongy, was also pretty neutral. I mean, Woody was always scared of stuff and really didn't get that much screen time anyways, so I'd say Woody was an alright person, just pretty neutral, not really much I can say about Woody. Next up, I have Pin, and Pin always wanted to be the leader, so maybe Pin had good intentions, but Pin was also really rude to other people and did cause some deaths in the 6th episode she was in, so I wouldn't say Pin was a very good person, but she sometimes looked out for other people and looked out for her team, but I wouldn't say Pin was a good person. We see Pin's character improve in later seasons, but we're just going off the first season, and I guess Pin might have been looking for the good in her team, but really didn't think about other people's feelings and was just all around pretty selfish. Next up, I have Needle, and Needle is a pretty interesting case because I do think Needle was nice to people except when she got called needy, and I don't really know how to assess this like predicament because I mean you could see it as a form of bullying, calling Needle needy because it's a name she didn't really like to be called. But again, with the excessive slapping, it is technically like assault, but I'm not really going to claim it as like assault because I don't really think it's that big of a deal. But I don't know. Needle was pretty nice to people, but then also rude to people who called her needy. But I wouldn't say she was unnecessarily mean, because at least there was a reason why she was being mean to people. So I don't know, this is hard. So I would say Needle is a good person, not being unnecessarily mean, because at least when she was being mean, there was a reason behind it. Next up, I have Teardrop, and because Teardrop never really talked, Teardrop was most of the time neutral. So again, I wouldn't really say Teardrop was a bad or good person. I mean, I guess I'd have to say good, but yeah, I don't know what much to say about Teardrop. Next up, I have Golf Ball, and same with Pin. Golf Ball did try to take the leadership role, but I would not say as nearly as mean as Pin. I think Golf Ball wasn't a horrible person. I just think the stuff Golf Ball said would be taken as rude, but I just don't think Golf Ball was really self-aware of the stuff she was saying and how it came off as. So I wouldn't say Golf Ball was a bad person. I would say Golf Ball was a decent person. Next up, I have Coiny, and again, Coiny wasn't super rude to anyone except for Fire, but Fire was also rude to him too, so I wouldn't really put that against him too much. I think that's just like a subtle, like a rivalry, I guess, and Coiny did help out his team a lot and kind of like, I don't know, I mean, Coiny was just like, it's hard to assess Coiny because Coiny was kind of like snarky in some senses, but also was like nice in other senses, so I would say Coiny was pretty neutral. If you have an opinion on Coiny, please put it down in the comment section because I really just don't know like how to assess Coiny in this sense. Next, I have Snowball. I don't really think there's much to be said. Snowball was just a plain out jerk to people he wasn't friends with, and it was really just unnecessary, and yeah, Snowball is just not a good person. Next up is Match, and Match was unnecessarily mean to people like Spongy and really excluding towards Ice Cube, so I wouldn't say Match is a good person, but I wouldn't say she was an overly bad person because she was like not to the extent of Pencil where she would exclude Spongy and Ice Cube, but again, I wouldn't say Match was a necessarily good person. Next up, I have Eraser, and out of all of his friends, I would say Eraser is probably the nicest. I mean, maybe not Pen, but I mean, Eraser wasn't overly like mean and also helped his team a lot in the contest, and like the only thing when he was really mean was to the announcer, but the announcer was also pretty mean to the contestants, so it kind of makes sense. So I would say Eraser is an overall decent person. Next up, I have Pen, and I think Pen out of all his friends was the nicest. I think Pen helped his team win challenges. I mean, would sometimes be mean to Leafy, kind of using Leafy for challenges, but I mean, I just fault that to Leafy for letting it happen, to be honest. And yeah, I think Pen was a pretty good person, pretty nice to most people. Next up, I have Tennis Ball, and I do think Tennis Ball is a pretty good person. Being the sidekick to Golf Ball, but also like being the voice of reason, I think Tennis Ball was smart and helped his team a lot. And yeah, Tennis Ball never really did anything mean. So, yeah, I don't know. Tennis Ball, pretty good person. Next, Pencil, and no, same reasons as Match, but except Pencil was more excessive than Match, and Pencil was pretty rude. If you weren't friends with Pencil, you probably weren't going to get the nicest side of Pencil, but I mean, she wasn't overly mean except to certain characters like Spongy. But yeah, Pencil, not good person. Next up was David, and I mean, same thing with Teardrop. David really didn't do much except say all seriously, so I guess David was neutral. Next up, I have Ice Cube. Ice Cube was a very vengeful person, but I mean, she never really did anything too wrong. Nothing really much I can say about Ice Cube. She kind of floated throughout the whole game, staying pretty neutral and didn't really do anything to deserve any like reasons to be as a bad person. Next up, I have Rocky, and a lot of people might think I would put him at neutral, but I actually put Rocky as a bad person for constantly throwing up on people, because that is just really disgusting. Even though if you couldn't control it, I mean, you still like aim your throw up somewhere else. I think Rocky's a bad person. Next up, I have Bubble, and I actually do like Bubble a lot. I think Bubble is a very, very good person. Definitely the nicest out of the Alliance. And a lot of people might see Bubble's interactions with Leafy and think she wasn't nice, but I mean, Bubble is just trying to keep it real with Leafy. And I don't see any really fault to Bubble's character. I think Bubble is probably one of the most honest characters, and I think that what makes you a really good person. I don't think Bubble ever did anything mean. Next up is Leafy, and I mean, yeah, I guess Leafy was a good person because she was overly nice, but it did feel very forced and very fake. But I mean, I don't know, can't really like complain about that. I mean, you can't complain about it, but not in this sense. I think Leafy is just automatically a good person. And Fiery, I don't know about Fiery, because I feel like Fiery was more mean than corny, and I kind of give him and corny the same like thing, because they were only really mean to each other. And I don't know, Fiery could definitely be mean, and not giving Leafy Dream Island after all Leafy had like done for Fiery, I think was also kind of rude. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm going back on what I said about Leafy. Leafy also stealing Dream Island shows that Leafy was really petty and the nicest was forced. So I don't know if Leafy was a good person, but Fiery, yeah, I mean, just not the best, not the worst. But if you did like this video, like and subscribe, and watch my other videos. Goodbye.